The twin suns of Nexus Prime cast long shadows across the ruins of a long-dead world. Zara and Lyra, two young alien explorers, picked their way through the crumbling remains of what was once a bustling city. Their skin shimmered with a faint blue glow, a stark contrast to the dull grays and browns of the desolate landscape around them. "I can't believe this used to be a living planet," Lyra said, her large, iridescent eyes scanning the horizon. Her voice was filled with wonder and a hint of sadness. Zara nodded, her antenna twitching as she adjusted the settings on her scanner. According to the old records, this place was called Earth. It was home to billions of beings called humans. The sisters had been sent on this expedition by the Galactic Archives, tasked with cataloging any remaining artifacts from Earth's final days. It was a routine mission, or so they thought. As they walked, Zara's scanner began to beep insistently. She frowned, tapping the device with a slender finger. "That's odd. I'm picking up some kind of energy signature beneath us." Lyra peered over her sister's shoulder, her brow furrowed in confusion. "But that's impossible. Nothing should be active after all this time." Curiosity piqued, the pair began to search for the source of the mysterious signal. They carefully made their way through the ruins, climbing over fallen skyscrapers and ducking under twisted metal beams. After hours of searching, they found a half-buried entrance to what appeared to be an underground facility. "Look at this," Zara said, brushing away centuries of dust from a faded sign. "It says Project Ark, humanity's last hope." With a mix of excitement and apprehension, the sisters activated their protective suits and ventured into the dark facility. Their bioluminescent skin provided a soft glow as they descended deeper into the earth. The air was stale, untouched for millennia. Zara and Lyra moved cautiously, their footsteps echoing in the eerie silence. They passed through corridors lined with defunct machinery and rooms filled with ancient computers. Suddenly, Lyra gasped. "Zara, look!" Before them stood a vast chamber, filled with rows upon rows of sleek, cylindrical pods. Each pod was connected to a central power source that hummed softly, defying the passage of time. "Are those cryogenic sleep chambers?" Zara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Lyra approached one of the pods, wiping away a layer of frost from its surface. She jumped back in shock. "There's someone inside." The sisters quickly moved from pod to pod, confirming what seemed impossible. Each chamber contained a sleeping human, perfectly preserved. "How many are there?" Zara wondered aloud, her scanner working overtime to process the data. Lyra consulted her own device. Thousands, maybe even tens of thousands. The implications of their discovery began to sink in. These weren't just artifacts. They were living beings from a long-lost civilization. "We need to report this to the Council immediately," Zara said, her voice filled with a mix of awe and urgency. Lyra nodded in agreement but couldn't tear her eyes away from the sleeping humans. "What do you think they're like? Do you think they knew what happened to their world?" Zora placed a comforting hand on her sister's shoulder. "I don't know, but I have a feeling we're about to find out." As they prepared to leave and call for backup, a soft beeping sound caught their attention. One of the pods was beginning to activate. "Oh no," Lyra breathed. "What do we do?" Zara straightened her posture, trying to project a confidence she didn't quite feel. "We stay. We're about to make first contact with a species that's been extinct for 800,000 years. This is what we've been trained for." The sisters watched with bated breath as the pod systems whirred to life. The frost on its surface began to melt away, revealing the face of a young human woman. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first, then widening in confusion and fear as she saw the alien faces peering down at her. In that moment, as three pairs of eyes locked across species and time, the fate of two civilizations hung in the balance. The discovery was complete, but the real adventure was just beginning. The underground facility hummed with activity as more cryopods began to activate. Zara and Lyra watched in amazement as humans, remnants of a long-lost civilization, slowly came back to life. The first to fully awaken was the young woman they had seen earlier. She sat up slowly, her movements stiff after centuries of sleep. Her eyes, a striking green, darted around the room in confusion before settling on the alien sisters. Where am I?" she asked, her voice hoarse from disuse. "Who are you?" Zara stepped forward, trying to appear as non-threatening as possible. "My name is Zara, and this is my sister Lyra. We're explorers from the planet Nexus Prime. You're in an underground facility on Earth." The woman's brow furrowed. "Earth? But that's impossible. The last thing I remember." Her voice trailed off as memories came flooding back. The evacuation. The asteroid. We were supposed to sleep until it was safe to return. Lyra approached cautiously. "What's your name?" "Sarah," the woman replied, still looking dazed. "Sarah Chen. I was a biologist." More pods were opening now, and confused voices filled the air. Men and women of various ages and ethnicities emerged, all wearing the same puzzled and fearful expressions. An older man with silver hair stumbled out of his pod, his eyes widening at the sight of Zara and Lyra. "What in God's name are you?" Sarah intervened, her scientific curiosity overcoming her initial shock. "They're aliens, Dr. Harrison. It seems we've been asleep for, well, I'm not sure how long." Zara cleared her throat, drawing attention back to her. "According to our records, it's been approximately 800,000 years since Earth was struck by a massive asteroid." A collective gasp rippled through the awakening humans. Dr. Harrison shook his head in disbelief. "That's impossible. Our pods were only designed to last a few centuries at most." Lyra stepped in, her voice gentle. "We don't understand it either, but it's true. Your world, it's gone. The Earth you knew no longer exists." The news hit the humans like a physical blow. Some broke down in tears, while others stood in stunned silence. Sarah, however, seemed to be processing the information differently. "If we've been asleep for that long, how are we even alive? And why now? Why did the pods start waking us up?" Zara shook her head. "We don't know. When we discovered this facility, everything was dormant. It wasn't until we entered that the systems began to activate. As more humans awoke, the initial fear and confusion began to give way to a range of emotions. Some were curious about their alien discoverers, while others were more concerned with the fate of their world." A young man approached Zara and Lyra, his eyes wide with wonder. "So, you're really aliens. What's it like out there? In space, I mean." Before they could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Red lights flashed, and a computerized voice echoed through the chambers. "Warning. External breach detected. Initiating emergency protocols." Panic spread through the newly awakened humans. Dr. Harrison took charge, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Everyone, stay calm. We need to figure out what's happening." Zara and Lyra exchanged worried glances. "We should contact our ship," Zara said. "Something's wrong." As they tried to communicate with their vessel, they were met with only static. Lyra's antenna twitched nervously. "Our signals are being jammed. We're cut off." Sarah approached the alien sisters, her face set with determination. "Look, I don't understand everything that's happening, but it's clear we're all in this together now. What can we do to help?" Zara nodded, appreciating the humans' initiative. "We need to secure this facility and find out what's causing that alarm. There might be emergency protocols or defense systems we can activate." As humans and aliens began to work together, navigating the ancient technology of the facility, a new sense of purpose emerged. They were no longer just two species meeting across an impossible gulf of time. They were allies facing an unknown threat. Outside the facility, unseen by those within, dark shapes moved across the ruined landscape. The awakening of humanity had not gone unnoticed, and forces beyond their understanding were converging on their location. The real test of this newfound alliance was about to begin. As the initial shock of awakening wore off, The true magnitude of the situation began to sink in for the humans. They were no longer in the world they knew, but in a future beyond their wildest imaginations. The facility's defenses had been activated, providing a temporary safe haven, but the humans knew they couldn't stay hidden forever. Zara and Lyra, with the help of Dr. Harrison and Sarah, had managed to establish a secure connection with their ship. A holographic screen flickered to life, showing the alien sisters' homeworld, Nexus Prime. The humans gathered around, their eyes wide with wonder. The planet was a marvel of technology and nature intertwined. Towering crystal spires reached towards the twin suns, while flying vehicles zipped between them. Lush purple vegetation covered the ground, and beings of various shapes and colors moved about their daily lives. "It's beautiful," Sarah whispered, her voice filled with awe. Dr. Harrison nodded in agreement, but his expression was troubled. "It's incredible, but where do we fit in all this? Our entire civilization, everything we knew, it's all gone." Zora placed a comforting hand on the doctor's shoulder, her touch gentle. "Your world may be gone, but your people live on. We can help you find a new home, a new purpose." As the days passed, the cultural differences between the humans and their alien hosts became more apparent. The humans struggled to grasp the advanced technology that Zara and Lyra took for granted. Simple tasks like food preparation or waste disposal became complex challenges. "I don't understand," a frustrated man named Mike complained one day. "Why can't we just have normal food? All this synthesized stuff tastes like plastic." Lyra tried to explain patiently. "Our bodies have evolved to process different nutrients. We're doing our best to replicate your Earth foods, but it will take time to get it right." The language barrier was another hurdle. While Zara and Lyra's universal translators allowed for basic communication, nuances and cultural references were often lost. Idioms and jokes fell flat, leading to awkward silences and misunderstandings. Sarah, ever the scientist, saw these challenges as opportunities. She organized cultural exchange sessions where humans and aliens could share stories, customs, and knowledge. During one such session, an elderly woman named Grace was teaching Zara about Earth music. She hummed a soft melody, a lullaby from her childhood. Zara's antenna twitched in response, emitting a harmonious resonance that complemented Grace's tune perfectly. The room fell silent, all eyes on the unlikely duet. For a moment, the gap between their worlds didn't seem so vast. But not all interactions were as harmonious. Some humans, like John, a former military officer, viewed the aliens with suspicion. "How do we know we can trust them?" John whispered to a group of like-minded individuals. "For all we know, they could be planning to experiment on us, or worse." These whispers of distrust didn't go unnoticed. Zara and Lyra found themselves walking a fine line between being helpful and giving the humans space to process their new reality. The tension came to a head when a group of humans, led by John, attempted to take control of the alien sisters' ship. They were quickly subdued by the ship's automated defense systems, but the incident left both sides shaken. Dr. Harrison, who had emerged as a leader among the humans, addressed the group. "I understand you're scared. We all are. But turning on each other, or on those who have only tried to help us, isn't the answer. We need to work together if we're going to survive in this new world." His words seemed to resonate, and slowly the atmosphere began to change. Humans started to embrace their new reality, asking more questions about the alien world and offering their own knowledge in return. As the cultural exchange deepened, both sides began to see the potential in their unlikely alliance. The humans' historical knowledge and unique perspectives combined with the aliens' advanced technology and understanding of the current universe created exciting possibilities. Sarah, working with Lyra, made a breakthrough in synthesizing Earth-like foods. The first successful attempt, a juicy red apple, was shared among humans and aliens alike, a symbol of their growing unity. As night fell on Nexus Prime, Zara stood watching the humans interact with her people. Despite the challenges, she felt a sense of hope. These resilient beings from the past were adapting, learning, and growing. Together, they might just forge a future brighter than either species could have imagined alone. But little did they know, this cultural integration was about to face its greatest test. On the horizon, an ancient enemy stirred, one that would force humans and aliens to either stand together or fall divided. The bustling spaceport of Nexus Prime was alive with activity. Ships of various sizes and shapes darted through the sky, their engines humming with energy. Among the crowd, a group of humans stood out, their eyes wide with wonder as they took in the sights of their new home. Sarah Chen, now dressed in the shimmering fabric of Nexan clothing, pointed excitedly at a massive ship docking in the distance. "Look at the size of that thing. It must be as big as a city." Dr. Harrison nodded, his silver hair ruffled by the breeze. "It's incredible how far technology has come. I feel like a caveman seeing fire for the first time." Zara and Lyra watched the humans with amusement. Over the past few weeks, they had grown fond of their charges, admiring their resilience and curiosity. But their peaceful moment was about to be shattered. A loud alarm blared across the spaceport, causing everyone to freeze. Red lights flashed on every screen and holo display. Zara's antenna twitched nervously as she read the emergency broadcast. "We need to get back to the ship now," she said, her voice urgent. As they hurried through the panicking crowd, Lyra explained the situation. "An unknown ship has entered our solar system. It's not responding to hails and is heading straight for Nexus Prime." Once aboard their ship, Zara brought up a holo display of the approaching vessel. It was unlike anything the humans had ever seen, a massive dark shape that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. John, the former military officer who had once distrusted the aliens, leaned in to study the image. "That's not a ship," he said grimly. "That's a war machine." As if to confirm his words, the alien vessel suddenly unleashed a barrage of energy weapons. The orbital defenses of Nexus Prime lit up in response, creating a dazzling light show in the planet's atmosphere. "Who are they?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. Zara's face was grim. "They're called the Void Hunters, an ancient race that preys on developing civilizations, stealing their technology and resources." Dr. Harrison's eyes widened in realization. "And now they're after us." "The humans." Lyra nodded. "Your revival must have caught their attention. Human technology from your time is primitive by our standards, but it took a completely different path than ours. To the Void Hunters, it's a treasure trove of new ideas to exploit." As they watched, more Void Hunter ships appeared, surrounding Nexus Prime. The planet's defenses were strong, but they were clearly outnumbered. "We need to do something," John said, his military training kicking in. "We can't just sit here and watch." Zara turned to the humans, her eyes filled with determination. "You're right, but we can't fight them with brute force. We need a plan." Sarah stepped forward, an idea forming in her mind. "What if we could use our primitive technology against them? They're expecting advanced weapons, not something from 800,000 years ago." The group huddled together, human and alien minds working in tandem. They pored over old Earth military tactics, combining them with Nexan technology in ways never before imagined. As they worked, reports came in from across the planet. The Void Hunters had begun landing troops, their dark, insectoid forms swarming through cities and towns. The people of Nexus Prime fought bravely, but they were being pushed back. "We're running out of time," Lyra said, her usual cheerful demeanor replaced by grim determination. Just then, Dr. Harrison let out a triumphant shout. "I think we've got something. Look at this." He pointed to a complex diagram on the holo display. It showed a curious blend of Earth-age electronics and Nexan quantum technology. "If we can build this and deploy it planet-wide, it might just give us a fighting chance," he explained. Zara studied the design, her antenna twitching with excitement. This could work. But we'll need to act fast." As the group prepared to put their plan into action, A massive explosion rocked the spaceport. Through the viewport, they could see Void Hunter troops advancing, their weapons carving a path of destruction. Sarah looked at the faces around her, human and alien, once strangers, now united in a common cause. "Well," she said, trying to sound braver than she felt, "I guess it's time to save the world." With renewed determination, the unlikely allies set out to face the greatest threat either of their species had ever encountered. The fate of two civilizations now rested in their hands. The makeshift war room buzzed with activity. Humans and Nexans worked side by side, their differences forgotten in the face of the common threat. Dr. Harrison's device, a curious mix of Earth-age electronics and Nexan quantum technology, sat at the center of the room, pulsing with energy. Sarah wiped sweat from her brow as she made final adjustments to the device. "I think it's ready," she said, looking up at Zara. "But we'll need to get it to the planet's core to have maximum effect." Zara nodded, her antenna twitching with nervous energy. "That won't be easy. The Void Hunters have taken control of most of the surface." John, the former military officer, stepped forward. "Then we'll need a distraction, something big enough to draw their attention, while a small team sneaks the device to the core." As if on cue, a holographic map of Nexus Prime flickered to life, showing the positions of the Void Hunter forces. Lyra studied it intently, her eyes scanning for weaknesses. "Look here," she said, pointing to a cluster of red dots. "Their command ship. If we could hit that, it might throw their whole operation into chaos." The room fell silent as everyone considered the implications. It was a bold plan, perhaps even a suicide mission. But it might be their only chance. Dr. Harrison broke the silence. "We'll need volunteers for both teams, the distraction force and the core team." To everyone's surprise, it was Mike, the man who had once complained about alien food, who spoke up first. "I'll go to the core. I used to work in mining operations back on Earth. If anyone can navigate underground, it's me." Sarah nodded. "I'll go too. Someone needs to calibrate the device once we're down there." One by one, others stepped forward, humans and Nexans alike, offering their skills and their lives for the mission. John would lead the distraction team, his military experience proving invaluable. As they prepared for the mission, Zora pulled Lyra aside. "Sister, I need you to stay here and coordinate. If we don't make it back, someone needs to carry on the fight." Lyra's eyes welled up with tears, but she nodded bravely. "I understand. But you better come back, or I'll never forgive you." The sisters embraced, their bioluminescent skin glowing brightly with emotion. As dawn broke over Nexus Prime, the Alliance put their plan into action. John's team, a mix of human soldiers and Nexan warriors, launched a daring attack on the Void Hunter command ship. The sky lit up with energy weapons and explosions, drawing the attention of the enemy forces. Meanwhile, Sarah, Mike, and a small team of Nexans slipped into the underground tunnels beneath the city. They carried the device, their last hope against the invaders. The journey to the planet's core was treacherous. Ancient defenses, awakened by the conflict above, posed nearly as much danger as the Void Hunters themselves. Mike's experience proved invaluable as he guided them through the maze-like tunnels. "Watch out," he shouted, pulling Sarah back just as a section of floor gave way, revealing a bottomless chasm. Sarah's heart raced. "Thanks," she gasped. "I guess 800,000 years of sleep didn't dull your reflexes." As they descended deeper, the heat became almost unbearable. The Nexans' bioluminescence provided the only light in the oppressive darkness. Finally, they reached the core chamber. A massive sphere of swirling energy pulsed before them, the heart of Nexus Prime. "It's beautiful," Sarah whispered, momentarily forgetting their mission. A sudden explosion from above shook them back to reality. The Void Hunters had discovered their plan. "We need to hurry," one of the Nexans urged. Sarah nodded, her hand steady as she began calibrating the device. Years of scientific training kicked in, allowing her to focus despite the chaos around them. Meanwhile, on the surface, John's team fought valiantly. Human ingenuity combined with Nexan technology in ways the Void Hunters had never seen. But they were outnumbered and outgunned. As John took cover behind a fallen building, he saw Zora fighting nearby. Her movements were fluid, almost dance-like, as she took down Void Hunter after Void Hunter. "We can't hold them much longer," John shouted over the din of battle. Zora nodded grimly. "We don't need to. We just need to buy enough time." Back in the core chamber, Sarah made the final adjustments. "It's ready," she announced. "But someone needs to stay behind to activate it manually." Mike stepped forward without hesitation. "I'll do it. You get the others to safety." Sarah opened her mouth to protest, but the look in Mike's eyes stopped her. She simply nodded, tears in her eyes. As Sarah and the Nexans retreated, Mike turned to face the core. He took a deep breath, his hand hovering over the activation switch. "Well," he said to himself, a wry smile on his face, "I guess alien food doesn't seem so bad now." With that, he pressed the button. A wave of energy surged through the planet, racing towards the surface. The Alliance had made its stand. Now they could only wait and hope it would be enough. A blinding flash of light erupted from the planet's core, racing towards the surface. The wave of energy washed over the battlefields of Nexus Prime, causing both allies and enemies to pause in awe. John, crouched behind a fallen pillar, watched as the Void Hunter's weapons began to flicker and fail. "It worked," he shouted, a grin spreading across his dirt-streaked face. "The EMP is working." Zora nodded, her antenna twitching with excitement. "Now's our chance. Push them back." The Alliance surged forward, their own weapons, a mix of Nexan energy blasters and retrofitted human firearms, still functional thanks to Dr. Harrison's selective EMP device. The Void Hunters, caught off guard by the sudden failure of their advanced technology, began to retreat. In the skies above, the massive Void Hunter ships listed and drifted, their engines dead. Some began to fall from the sky, crashing into the desert outside the city. But the battle was far from over. The Void Hunters, though taken by surprise, were a warrior race. They quickly adapted, drawing ancient-looking blades and charging into hand-to-hand combat. "They're not giving up," Sarah yelled, emerging from an underground tunnel with the rest of the core team. She grabbed a fallen Nexan energy staff, wielding it awkwardly but with determination. The city became a chaotic mix of close-quarters combat and guerrilla warfare. Humans, with their long history of conflict, found themselves teaching Nexans the art of street fighting. Meanwhile, the Nexans' natural agility and knowledge of the terrain proved invaluable. Dr. Harrison, coordinating from the command center, watched the battle unfold on holographic displays. "We need to take out their command ship," he said to Lyra. "As long as it's intact, they'll keep fighting." Lyra nodded, her usual cheerful demeanor replaced by grim determination. "I have an idea, but it's risky." Meanwhile, on the front lines, John and Zora fought side by side. John's military training complemented Zora's alien abilities perfectly. They moved as one, covering each other's blind spots and taking down Void Hunter after Void Hunter. "You know," John panted between skirmishes, "I never thought I'd be fighting alongside an alien, let alone enjoying it." Zora let out a laugh, her bioluminescence flashing brightly. "And I never thought I'd be taking combat tips from a human. Life is full of surprises." Their moment of camaraderie was interrupted by a deafening roar. Looking up, they saw a massive Void Hunter, easily twice the size of the others, striding towards them. Its armor seemed to absorb light, and it wielded a sword that crackled with dark energy. "That must be their leader," Zora said, her voice tense. John nodded grimly. "Then that's our target." As they prepared to face this new threat, Sarah's voice crackled over their communicators. "John, Zora, we need you back at the command center. Lyra has a plan to take out the command ship, but we need your help." John looked at the approaching Void Hunter leader, then back at Zora. "We can't leave now. If that thing reaches the city center, it's all over." Zora's antenna twitched in agreement. "You go," she said. "I'll hold it off." "No way," John replied, checking his weapon. "We started this fight together. We'll finish it together." As the Void Hunter leader approached, John and Zora stood their ground. Human and Nexan, once strangers from different worlds, now united in defense of their new home. The battle raged around them, but for a moment, everything seemed to fade away. It was just the two of them facing down this embodiment of the threat that had brought their peoples together. "Ready?" John asked, a hint of a smile on his face despite the dire situation. Zora nodded, her bioluminescence pulsing with determination. "Ready." With a war cry that echoed across the battlefield, they charged towards the Void Hunter leader. The fate of Nexus Prime, of the human refugees, of the entire Alliance, hung in the balance. As energy blasts and gunfire lit up the sky, as the sounds of combat filled the air, one thing became clear. This was more than just a battle for survival. It was a fight for the future, for the proof that different species, different civilizations, could come together and create something greater than the sum of its parts. And as John and Zora clashed with the Void Hunter leader, their allies fighting bravely all around them, that future hung by a thread. The battle for Nexus Prime had reached its climax. The sun rose over Nexus Prime, its twin rays painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. The battle-scarred landscape bore witness to the fierce fight that had raged through the night. But now, an eerie silence had fallen over the city. In the central plaza, surrounded by the remnants of the battle, stood John and Zora. Both were battered and exhausted, but alive. At their feet lay the defeated form of the Void Hunter leader, its dark armor cracked and lifeless. We did it," John said, his voice hoarse from shouting orders. Zora nodded, her bioluminescence flickering weakly. "Together," she added, placing a hand on John's shoulder. As if on cue, cheers erupted from all around them. Humans and Nexans poured into the plaza, embracing each other in joy and relief. The Void Hunters had been defeated, their command ship destroyed by Lyra's daring plan involving repurposed human satellites and Nexan energy weapons. Sarah pushed through the crowd, her face streaked with dirt and tears. "Mike," she said, her voice breaking. He didn't make it. The core." John pulled her into a hug, his own eyes glistening. "He saved us all," he said softly. "We'll make sure he's remembered." In the days that followed, the true scope of their victory became clear. The remaining Void Hunters, leaderless and outmatched, retreated from Nexus Prime. The Alliance had won, but at a great cost. A week after the battle, a ceremony was held in the heart of the rebuilt city. Humans and Nexans gathered together, no longer as two separate species, but as one united people. Dr. Harrison, his silver hair now streaked with more gray, stood at the podium. "Today, we honor those who fell in defense of our new home," he began. "Human and Nexan alike, they gave their lives so that we might have a future." As he spoke, a holographic monument flickered to life behind him. It showed two figures, one human and one Nexan, standing back to back, their hands clasped in unity. "But even as we mourn, we must look to the future," Dr. Harrison continued. "A future that, 800,000 years ago, none of us could have imagined. A future where humanity and Nexan kind stand together, as equals, as friends, as family." Zora and Lyra stood in the front row, their antennae twitching with emotion. Beside them, John and Sarah listened intently, their faces a mix of sorrow and hope. "The Void Hunters sought to exploit our differences," Dr. Harrison said, his voice growing stronger. "Instead, they only served to highlight our similarities, our courage, our determination, our capacity for love and sacrifice." He gestured to the crowd, where humans and Nexans stood side by side. "Look around you. This is not the end of our journey, but a new beginning." Together, we will rebuild. Together, we will explore the stars. And together, we will face whatever challenges the universe has in store for us. As Dr. Harrison's speech concluded, a hush fell over the crowd. Then, slowly at first, but with growing strength, a cheer rose up. It was not the war cry of battle, but a joyous sound of hope and unity. In the months that followed, Nexus Prime transformed. The ruins of war gave way to new structures that blended human and Nexan architecture. Research facilities sprang up, where scientists from both species worked side by side, combining their knowledge to push the boundaries of technology and understanding. John, now heading a joint security force, often found himself marveling at how far they had come. One evening, as he watched the twin suns set from the balcony of the new Capitol building, Zura joined him. "Thinking deep thoughts?" she asked, her bioluminescence pulsing gently in the twilight. John smiled. "Just remembering where we started. Two lost species, strangers to each other. And now look at us." Zara nodded, her gaze turning to the city below, where humans and Nexans walked together in the streets. "We've come a long way," she agreed, "but the best is yet to come." As if to emphasize her words, a sleek spacecraft rose from the spaceport in the distance. It was the first of a new fleet, built with the combined knowledge of human and Nexan engineers. Its mission: to explore the galaxy, to seek out new worlds and new civilizations. John and Zara watched it disappear into the darkening sky, a symbol of their shared future. The legacy of Earth lived on, not just in the humans who had slept for 800,000 years, but in the new civilization they had forged with their Nexan allies. As night fell on Nexus Prime, the city glowed with the light of 1,000,000 hopes and dreams. The adventure that had begun with two alien girls discovering sleeping humans had blossomed into something greater than anyone could have imagined. It was truly a new beginning.